Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and I'm not alone. And this is basically, essentially, an introduction because, as you probably no doubt know, if you are a fan of the channel, I am no longer alone permanently. We have another chap on board now who's going to be doing videos alongside me, and we are so pleased to have him. Xeon, say hello. And why do you pronounce your name that way?
Well, that is a long story that we don't have to get into right now, but that my mom is to thank for that.
Can we get the abridged version?
So basically, my mom picked it out of a baby book back when nobody really knew how to pronounce that name, I don't believe. And I mean, you'd think like a baby book like that would have a pronunciation guide, something like that.
I see.
But my mom was just going for something different, and nobody used that name when in the 90s. So I just think that she thought it was pronounced this way, and that's what I have now.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I get enough weird looks when I pronounce Mario to people online. Because they think it should be Mario, and I don't know why they think that. The mad sods. No, I'm gonna get on the record now. I've been wanting to do a video on the pronunciation of Mario for so long. Both are perfectly acceptable. One of them is closer. No, I'm not going to get into it now. But no, they are both perfectly acceptable. And in fact, if you want to get technical, Mario with a short A like that, it's not spelt Mario. I've been wanting to get this off my chest for a while. Can you can you get that at all?
It sounds like a good way to get the internet upset.
Mario with a short A is closer to the Japanese pronunciation of Mario. It's not the same, but it is closer than Mario. So
you're saying we westernized him?
You've Americanized him, and Americanization is a dirty word.
That sounds like that's the problem that you need to tackle.
Well, maybe I'll save it for another video. But anyway, yes, this is just basically an introduction, just so that you all can stop saying, "Where's Alex?" in the comments.
And so he's here. He's not going anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere. No, it's now a two-man operation on the channel. Obviously, the site's still got about 14 billion people working for it. I think it's more like 5, but yeah. So it's all good. So
give or take, yeah.
Yeah, we're just gonna have a bit of a chatteroony, and yeah, why not? So Xeon, what was your first Nintendo console?
My first Nintendo. Well, that's hard to say, because so I grew up with my grandpa had an original Nintendo. And it was like my families that stayed at his house. And long story short, I lived with my mom and I lived with my grandparents until I was like 8, I think it was 8 or 9. And so we were there, all the time. So if I ever reference my grandparents and things, it's because they were a huge part of my life. But so they had a Nintendo there, and so we would play Mario. And I remember we had that really bad Street Fighter game that came out on Nintendo, like the 2020 Future Challenger or whatever it was called.
Oh, that one.
That was like a platformer.
It's a weird platformer. I've never actually played it myself, but I've seen it, and it's bizarre.
It's hard because it's like calling it a Street Fighter game. It's not a good game in that regard. But my memories.
I seem to remember it wasn't even developed by the same people. In fact, I'm going to Google it now while you continue to chat away, and I'll do some research.
Sure. Yeah. But yeah, so we had a lot of weird games back then. Like, we didn't originally have Legend of Zelda, but we had Mario. We got Spy versus Spy from a garage sale. Like, just weird stuff. But then I eventually we ended up getting a Super Nintendo from my cousin. And with that came along a bunch of cool stuff. Still no Zelda, which is my favorite. But we did get Final Fantasy II, which was like my first experience with RPGs over here. And so I, for some reason, I was drawn to that game. And maybe it was because it was the only one that was given to us with a manual. Which the manual didn't even have the cover. I just had to play the game and figure out, oh, this manual belongs to this game. But yeah, I was I think we probably got that when I was 6 or 7, and I was trying to push through a large RPG, and it wasn't the easiest task, but I had a ton of fun with it. And we ended up loaning that Super Nintendo to a different family member, and many years later, probably when I was 12 or 13, we got it back, and I actually did beat Final Fantasy II, which I was very excited about. But then I got at some some point around the time the Game Boy Color came out. I got that. And the 2 games I got, by the way, were Pokemon Pinball, not even like the original Pokemon, just Pokemon Pinball and Tarzan. And
you can do a lot worse than Pokemon Pinball. That is a beastly game.
No, you are completely correct. But that was my introduction to the Pokemon video games, was Pinball. And I know that there's got to be other people out there that have that story too. But I want to know what store clerk was selling my mom a Game Boy Color and then was like, you know what I think you'd like is Pokemon Pinball, not regular Pokemon.
Do you know?
Pokemon
I think
Pinball.
I can imagine such a clerk, we'd say. I can imagine such a clerk being somebody who had a lot of copies of Pokemon Pinball to shift.
There you go. Right, exactly. And he was, see, I worked in retail and for many years, video games retail. So
I'm lucky in the sense I've never done retail. I've done like I was about to say hotelier. That sounds really pompous. I work behind a bar in a hotel, and I've worked in other bars as well. I've done a lot of bar work actually.
Yeah, okay.
Because those are relatively easy to come by in the UK. And I was actually a tutor for a while as well, a private tutor.
Really?
To 3 kids when I was at university. And I think that was one of the highest paying jobs I've ever had. But that was probably because I only did 4 hours a week.
What were you teaching? Oh, wow. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I was teaching mainly English because it was mainly one of the lads. And obviously, I don't want to go into too many details for privacy's sake. But
sure.
It was mainly one of the lads because his parents felt that he was slightly underperforming in English, and the fact that I was doing English language at the university that I was at, which was Hertfordshire, go Hearters, or if there was a sports team, I have no idea what it was called. It's not like the States. So they, I saw that they were looking for someone, and I was like, you know what, I can do that, and I got the job. But I was tutoring the other 2 as well, and I think it was mainly so that the lad who I was there mainly for didn't feel like he was being sort of singled out, and obviously, opportunity to help the other 2 with their homework and stuff. And it's terrifying. And a couple of months ago, I suddenly realized that lad is now like 16, and that's terrifying. That is absolutely terrifying. He may even be older by now, I don't know, but yeah,
you were an integral part of that.
I taught him that you can't even have the tiniest bit of chocolate without me noticing. We're going massively off topic, but yeah, it was. I had great fun tutoring. It was so much fun. It was a lot of work. It was stressful, and sort of. I think, sort of. Overall, I don't know how much of an impact I had. I like to think I had some of an impact. But I do think in a weird way that spurred me on to do what I do now, even though I had no plans to do that back then. Yeah. In fact, I wanted to be a teacher, but to, sort of to have an impact on people's lives, a positive one, obviously. I could just, go around throwing buckets of water on people and I'm still having an impact on them. But, I like to be nice as well.
Yeah, no, and that's a good way of looking at it is what you did do then has definitely come into now, because I mean you're always that is your job right now, is to teach people about games.
Oh, I think that's a stretch, but I can see where you're coming from. But yeah,
but I mean, I've been a viewer of the channel for years and the site, and like you taught me how to open up. I mean, maybe I already knew how to open up a Super Nintendo controller before, but you taught me how to add in like the 8BitDo adapter if I wanted to ever do that.
Oh, blimey, I forgot about that video.
You do have informational stuff on the channel sometimes, and so in a way, you technically are still implementing, those ideas and stuff. So, I mean, it's a weird spin, but yeah,
it's definitely a weird spin. Yeah, but no, I really like my job. It's there are absolutely, and I'm sure, although you've not really been with the channel long enough, but if you haven't had it now, I'm sure you will in the future. There will be days where, even though, you can love your job to death, but there'll still be days where you wake up and you don't have the drive and you don't have the energy. And it can be a real struggle to get something out. Have you had that yet, or are you now just looking forward to that?
A little bit here and there. I mean, a job's a job. I mean, things are... a job can be fun, But yeah, it can be. And like, yeah, this whole thing has been a blessing, and I'm so excited to be here. But of course, you know, it's still like, I haven't done something like this full time before. So yes, I'm. If we're asking, I am very terrified, but I still think I can do it.
Yeah, no, I think we wouldn't have you if we didn't think you had the skills. And
thank you.
Yeah, you know, it's always going to be a learning curve. You know, you're trying to learn something. You know, I think I've established a relative style on the channel, and so to accommodate into that, I imagine is not easy, especially when I've got my own systems and things like that. But you seem to have done brilliantly so far. We're really chuffed to have you.
When you have a very like fun style, like everything stays very, it's very professional. But then, you know, you'll start off a video by puking into a toilet or getting a bunch of controllers thrown at you while you're in bed. And I love that kind of stuff.
I want to do as much of that sort of stuff as possible, but I sort of, early on, I felt that if a gag doesn't feel natural, don't do it, because it will come across in spades. And so, you know, if you feel like yourself you're forcing it, don't do it. And I think that's one of the reasons why I don't do that sort of stuff maybe more often. Also, it's a lot more work. And sometimes, you know, the time restraints mean it's just not possible. But yeah, it's, I love doing those little things like that. Those little cutaway gags and asides and, you know, the little editing, you know, zooming in and doing silly things with my face and stuff like that. It's good fun. Sadly, though, it is just, it's something that takes a lot of time. And yeah.
But it is, I think when you do it, I at least I've, you know, before I was on the channel too, and I mean even so now, I definitely notice that kind of stuff, and it added extra flair, you know, to beyond just the conversations that you have to help differentiate you and from, you know, the other herds of YouTubers and stuff that are out there. So but you're totally right though, it does take time, and when you're trying to make so many videos, you know, time isn't really on your side. So
yeah, and I think you've you've essentially done something very similar yourself with the video about the Labo VR strap, where you had the little the little gag at the start, the little sketch, and that was really good. That worked really well. How long did that take, by the way? I was curious.
So that was the bulk of the. I like to say I blew the budget on the intro, but I think it took maybe like. It probably took like 2 hours worth of like filming, just like random stuff, and like setting up the lights in the different rooms and things.
Yeah, and then, lighting is a pisser, and I think a lot of people, maybe who watch videos, don't realize just how much of a faff lighting is. You know, and that's not to sort of bemoan or belittle, you know, sort of the using effective lighting. I think it's really important, but it's one of those things where if you do it right, no one notices.
Oh yeah. But if it's bad, then everyone comes out of the woodwork to yell at you about it.
Or at least, I imagine a majority of people are perfectly forgiving about that sort of thing. But you'll always get someone ready to moan.
That's true.
And it's always absolutely the minority of people. But even so, you know, and I think especially for Nintendo Life, I'd say a vast majority of the people who comment are really, you know, they're really good sausages, to say the least. Yeah. And I feel very lucky in that regard. We get the occasional comments that are YouTube comments, shall we say? But overall, no, I think overall we're very lucky with the fans that we've got.
I agree, and I'm really happy to be a part of this community now. And if you would have told me a year, 6 months ago that, you know, I was going to be working with you, I never would have believed you. So because this is a real treat for me, as you would maybe say. So I really appreciate being here.
That's great to hear, and as I've said numerous times, we're more than, you know, over the moon to have you, and hopefully this can be the start of building the channel to bigger, better, and greater things, because at the end of the day, we all know what you lovely people watching want, and it's more stuff. And if we can do more stuff, or indeed the same amount of stuff but bigger, you know, it can only be a good thing.
And technically, like, I should be able to free you up from potentially some work that maybe, you know, now that there's two people around, like
Absolutely.
You're going to be able to make, yep.
When I was still living with my parents and I started getting back into games a little bit more, because I never fell out, but I started getting more interested in the retro stuff. And I really got back into the N64, which was probably the console that I grew up with the most, the N64 and the GameCube. I had a SNES and I had a Master System and all that. But the N64 is the one that I remember most strongly from my early years. And I remembered borrowing Conker's Bad Fur Day from my next door neighbor.
Goodness. I have a story about Conker's Bad Fur Day, by the way, after this then.
Oh, yeah, great, yeah. But the... so I remember borrowing it, and I'd actually borrowed Banjo-Tooie off him a couple of years prior, and he'd never asked for it back. And so I thought, I wonder if I could get Conker's Bad Fur Day, and I'll offer to pay for it and everything, you know. Sadly, he'd sold it at a car boot sale, and he'd sold all of his N64 stuff for next to nothing. I was like, oh no! But I did get Banjo-Tooie. He said I could keep that. So, nice. I've got Banjo-Tooie, which is decently rare. It's not crazy, but I remember playing Conker's Bad Fur Day. It must have been when it first came out, so I was about 10 or 11.
Yeah, I was going to say, how old were you?
Yeah, pretty damn young. So it scared the hell out of me. In its own way. Well, no, it didn't scare me. It freaked me out. But I still completed
that
it.
Game, I never did. And my reasons for that were, so I used to go out shopping with my grandma a lot, and I would always like ask her to stop at like the local game stores or the rental places to check and see like what because I would always find good deals on video games at rental shops. And so we stopped by. Which isn't around anymore, but you guys never had Hollywood Videos over by you, right? I imagine probably not. But...
No, we had Blockbuster, but rental stuff really wasn't that big in the UK. I mean, at least it's certainly not in my experience. There, I do remember certain places where you could rent, but they were very few and far between. Most people just bought games, as far as I know.
Sure, and here rental chains are almost dead. But Hollywood Video, it had to have been Hollywood Video. But anyways, so we went in there and we were looking around at the N64 games, and I somehow decided that, and this was probably around the time that the game came out, so maybe I was in between like 8 and 10 or 9, somewhere around there. And I decided that was the day that I wanted to try playing Conker's Bad Fur Day. So I asked my grandma if we could rent it, and she didn't understand the ESRB. She was always very cool about like, oh yeah, if it's not, you know, something like Grand Theft Auto, you know, I don't really care. And my grandpa was the complete opposite though. If it was even like, if it was a PG-13 movie or something, he was out. We couldn't do it. So I managed to let me rent Conker's Bad Fur Day for a couple nights. And so we get home, and I was playing the N64 in the living room, and which was my biggest mistake. I should have taken it in my room to go play instead. But so I'm playing it in the living room, and I get to the part where you have to get the king bee to pollinate the flower. If you remember that at all.
It's etched into my brain.
as mine. And so I managed to get that to all work out. And then you essentially unlock the ability to jump on the flower. And
yes,
that
you
was
do.
When...
Can you explain to the lovely people what area of the flower you jump on?
Well, so you flower opens up
you
its
don't
arms.
actually have to explain it.
Oh, you don't? Oh, okay.
No, I
thought you did.
I was
you wanted
goading
me to
you.
Picture
I was goading you.
Good. Thanks,
Seeing
Alex.
how committed you were to the role.
I was. I wanted to paint the perfect picture for the viewer, the listener.
Willing to express how in Conker's Bad Fur Day you bounce on the mammary glands of a sunflower.
Look at that. I didn't even have to explain it. Thank you.
When you start using medical terms, everything's okay. YouTube can't do anything.
That's a better way of doing it.
You hear that, YouTube? We just referenced some naughty bits, and you can't do anything about it.
And so basically my grandparents and my mom walked in and saw that specific moment, and they immediately like shut me down from the game. They took it away, said I couldn't play it anymore, and that was fine. I at least had a taste of Conker. But that was as far as I had made it until I eventually managed to somehow get them to allow me to buy the Xbox re-release, and that was just suddenly okay. I don't know why. I mean, I was older, maybe.
Well, it is technically more censored. Like the Xbox version of the game has more censorship than the Nintendo version. Which I find quite delicious.
And see, at the time, I had no idea. I thought it was the more graphic version because the multiplayer was more intense. And so for years, I was like, the Xbox version is clearly the superior version.
Oh, no. No.
Very wrong now. Yep.
I mean, the Conker Fur, which is the fur that Conker has, and they actually sold that, actually. If I say actually one more time, yeah. No, as in, not as in the actual fur, but the technology.
Actually?
Yeah, the technology to create the fur. Actually, they used to license that because it was so well received. Because I mean, that was on the original Xbox, and that looked amazing. I still prefer the original, but it looked damn good.
I thought you were pulling a prank on me, and I thought you meant they actually sold Conker Fur, like, as a promotional item or something. I was like, what?
I wouldn't put it past Rare, so
what do you mean?
Who knows? But anyway, I think good Lord, we're up to nearly half an hour. So,
oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to say cheery bye now because I've got more stuff to do. But once again, welcome, Xeon. Thank you so much for joining us on the channel, and I hope all your endeavors are excellent. Would you like to play us out, seeing as I did the intro? You can do the outro?
Sure. Well, thank you all so much for having us, and thank you, Alex, for having me.
You're very welcome.
If you enjoyed this video, and especially if you want to hear us just ramble on about more stuff, because I had a lot of fun just getting to chat with you today. It was cool to learn more about you, and
it's good fun.
Spill some game history. But yeah, as always, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit that like button over there, subscribe to Nintendo Life, and ring that notification bell to be notified whenever we put up new videos. I'm Xian from Nintendo Life. Thank you all for listening. Have a good one. See you later.
Bye.
Oh. To be notified whenever we put up new videos.
Which will now be
Nintendo
almost... Sorry, you carry on.
No, go ahead. You can cut that. Yeah.
I'll edit that out. No, that's not fair. Off you go.
No. What were you going to say?
I can't even remember. It wasn't important.
Dang it. See, I was going to do a thing where I was like, maybe I'll say my name, and then Alex can say his, and then he can just take it out. Do you think that would work?
I don't know. Just do the outro. It's fine.
Just do it? Okay, all right. I'm Xian from Nintendo Life. Thank you all guys for listening. Wow. Give me a sec.
Wowzers trousers.